Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Okra's virtual Oki recycling tour of Norman's compost facility. This Lunch and Learn is kicking off this year's International Compost Awareness Week, the first full week of May each year. This year's theme is Compost, Nature's Climate Champion. Okra is excited to be collaborating on today's event with OCASA, the Oklahoma Compost and Sustainability Association, Fertile Ground, and the City of Norman. Let's get started.
Waste are allowed to rot or decompose in a controlled manner. Composting helps to keep the high volume of organic waste out of our landfills and turn that material into useful product, a black gold called compost. In honor of the International Compost Awareness Week, we decided to tour the City of Norman composting facility. So stay tuned and let's learn about their facility together. We're here at the Norman composting facility. So could you please tell listeners more about yourself and who you work with?
So I'm Jeremy Boggs. I'm a heavy equipment operator at the compost facility. I work with a guy named Dustin Reinhold. We're the two operators here. I've been here 17 years. I think he's been here 13. And we've both been down here 4 years.
Awesome. So what inspired the city of Norman to be involved in composting?
So the citizens of Norman voted in 91 they voted before 91 to start a compost facility. It didn't actually get started till 91.
Awesome. It's a great thing that it's coming actually from the citizens. All right. So how long have you been doing this and what inspired you?
Well, I've been doing this for 4 years. I think it's great to divert the yard waste and grass clippings, leaves, everything from landfills. The cost alone is quite a bit of savings.
Okay. So how big is your facility?
So we have 15 acres. Only about 10 of that is workable right now. I think we have plans to expand this other 5.
Right. What type of materials do you take for composting?
So we only take just natural organic yard waste, just your brush, grass clippings, leaves. We exclude a lot of the rubber mulches that you'll see and stuff like that.
Awesome. I'm a little bit curious. Why don't you take food waste?
Well, our permit doesn't allow us to take food waste. We would have to do a permit modification and do some ground improvement to be able to take food waste.
Okay. Do residents or people need to show any form of identification in order to drop off items?
So our residents with a valid water bill can dump for free. Our contract crews pay a $20 fee no matter the load size. So.
Great. All right. I'm also a little bit curious to know about this. But what method of composting do you use?
So we use a natural windrow composting. So we'll take and grind our yard waste or our organics up and put them in a row. And then we take temperatures and just add water and turn them until they start to cool themselves. And then we will put it in a pile for a while as a cure pile to let it completely cure out.
Okay. So I know there are some facilities that we use kind of like an accelerator or sort of. Do you ever add anything to your compost?
No. Our compost is 100% organic, nothing besides water. So.
That's great. So what happened to the compost pile during winter?
Winter doesn't really affect our composting much. Our rows, even in winter, will stay 160, 170 degrees. It could slow it a little bit, but not enough to make a difference.
Okay, so after composting and everything, what do you do with the finished compost?
Most of the finished compost goes back to the residents of Norman. We try to, you have to have a Norman water bill to receive compost. Sometimes we do donate some to other cities or like the Parks Department, stuff like that.
Great. So how does composting benefit the city of Norman and the community?
Well, a lot of the benefits would be not putting it in the landfill, being able to recycle it, and that stuff, that compost, go back into flower beds and yards, and it just, beautification helps with a lot of that stuff.
Awesome. So I love tours, and in fact, that's why I'm here. Do you have public tours for compost facility?
Yes, we do public tours. We do like for people to call and try to schedule those, but we will do them for anybody that wants to come look.
Great. What are your biggest challenge running this program?
Our biggest challenge out here is mostly going to be our working surface. It's a gravel on top of dirt, and so we get a lot of potholes, kind of little sinkholes, and so we spend more time trying to fix our working surface than we do anything else.
Great. So, what do you think are the biggest mistake people make when they set up out for compost?
Just really kind of being shy about it instead of just kind of jumping into it and learning as you go. With composting, you can do it in your backyard just as easy as we can do it here. You just got to try, and there's so much stuff online about what to do, how to do it, and I think if people would just try it, they would realize it's not as hard as people make it out to be. So.
Great. So, what is your biggest success running the program?
Biggest success is probably just we sent some off to OSU and had it tested, and our results were great. So just having that kind of result sheet that we got emailed to us, it's nice to have, to be able to show people that we did have it tested. It is good stuff.
Okay, this is a really great program, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to learn more about it. Where can citizens get information on how to set out the correct things?
So the City of Norman website has a compost tab page, and if you go on there, it tells you what you can put out, the length restrictions, and everything like that.
Awesome. I will head out there and check, and I hope everyone watching will head out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, that was an amazing tour. We hope you learned a lot as much as we did. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to click on the notification bell because you definitely don't want to miss the next Oki recycling tour. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.
All right. Okay. A nice video, Kimma. Good job.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was really cold that day. That's why we were like huddling by the warm compost. So yes, has everyone been out to Norman's facility yet? Those in the back?
Yeah, like we
live there.
I think for purposes of discussion, one of the biggest questions I get is about the food, the food waste.
Yeah, Brett,
Food.
will you tell everyone who you are?
Oh, I'm the solid waste division manager.
For City of Norman,
Pardon?
City of Norman.
City of Norman, yes. But one of the big things about the food waste program is we can take food waste with a permit modification. But where we have to draw the line, it's an economy of scale. Equipment is so expensive and we have a lot of volume there. So if we can take industrial food waste only. We can't take residential food waste. For the reason I assume that the DEQ doesn't want us to do that is that there is not a proper segregation methodology yet that really gets us where we need to be to keep the protein type stuff out of there. So we can take vegetative industrial waste and there's not enough of it here to justify the collection method. So if we were to buy a truck and buy the dumpsters and that kind of thing, we would have to hire somebody to do that. And you're talking about huge capital expense and then an employee with benefits and all that kind of thing for a volume that would probably run a truck one time a week. So there's not enough volume in the city of Norman to generate enough of that vegetative food waste from industrial processes to make it economically feasible to do that. We would love to do it. It's just that we'd have a guy standing around 4 days a week waiting for him to fill the bin up at Walmart, so to speak. And I think there's other services out there that are working with Walmart to grab that and take it to other places, which is perfect. So we can't operate outside the city limits. So there's other companies that are able to do that and are welcome to come in to grab that here in the next few months. We're gonna have that set up policy wise where that will make that very easy to do for folks that are in that business, where they can go Norman, Oklahoma City, Newcastle, all those other cities to grab enough volume to keep a truck busy and an employee busy. So that's the big reason why we don't take it. There's just not enough out there for us to justify the expense.
So can you tell us an example of vegetative industrial food waste?
Well, that'd be the produce department at Walmart is the easiest example. So it's a business that generates, it could be as small as a sandwich shop or as big as a Walmart or a Target grocery store or a Homeland, something like that. So think about when you fill your dumpster up with used bananas and iceberg lettuce. You can get a lot of iceberg lettuce in a 2-yard dumpster. So it would be about a once a week. So then in the summertime, because it's the frequency, the cost of operating on one of those trucks is around $110 an hour. So the frequency would be such that if we were to go out there every day and pick it up every day, because of the potential for disease vectors and those kind of things. So you need to have a smaller methodology to do that, a smaller truck, more labor intensive, more hands-on. And it's something that we're not in that business. We don't have that line of business that we'd have a small truck and a hands-on collection that would be conducive to daily service, so to speak. I suppose at some point in time, if we did a study and saw that there was enough volume that we could go out there with polycarts and a fully automated truck and may be able to do it that way. But that would take a pretty intense, we'd have to look at the demographics, the volumes, get a really good estimate of volumes. And sometimes corporations are not willing to give away those trade secrets of how much they put out, those kind of things. So it'd be kind of a you'd have to grab a lot of gears to get from here to there, but it could be done. It's not outside the realm of possibility to get that done. It's, something that should be done. It's, as a measurable diversion, it's gonna be in the very low percentile. It's not gonna be enough to really dent that measure based, our total output, all waste streams included, is about 160,000 tons a year. I wouldn't imagine that this wouldn't be as much as 1% of that. So it's measurably, it's not gonna save us a lot of money. It's gonna be an expense. And that expense would have to be passed along to the consumer and then therefore the citizens of Norman. And it's not something that we would want to go into lightly, because one of our goals, along with diversion, is to make sure that we give them the best bang for their buck. So there's a lot of little nuances in that decision to do that, but it could be done. I think it's very readily could be done with an automatic side loader and color-coded cart that, maybe they're purple or something like that to indicate vegetative food waste. Yes.
So follow up on that, Fred. So you've mostly kind of been talking about the commercial side of
I'm
things.
so hard of hearing, you're gonna have to yell at me.
Would we ever open up the facility for residential drop-off of food waste?
Of food waste, residential drop-off facility, that would be something that I would imagine we could do, but it would probably have to be permitted as opposed to our regular dry waste drop-off centers that don't have to be permitted. When you get into the realm, I think, better than I do because you've worked for the DEQ, but when you get into the realm of disease vectors and those kind of things, you're kind of getting to a whole different game. So it could be DEQ, it could be State Department of Health, it could be a lot of things. And there'd probably be a mandated frequency on that and those kind of things. So again, it always doubles back to the cost of operating. You have to convert those situations to dollars and cents. Nothing is impossible. And the DEQ in Oklahoma is so readily available and so easy to work with that if you could come up with a plan that would accommodate those objections, I can't imagine they would even blink at giving you the opportunity to move forward with it. But it'd take a lot. It'd take a lot of analysis and a lot of making sure that you didn't hurt anybody, with the disease vectors. You're putting those out in a neighborhood or as close to a neighborhood or a shopping center, and you've got that protrusible waste sitting there for a couple of days and it could get,
No, I was just thinking of citizens going to the compost facility for drop-off.
What?
I was just thinking of citizens going to the compost facility for drop-off like we currently do with green waste.
If we were to get that permit going and could justify that cost, we'd do it. But again, the volume would not be measurable in our diversion plan. It wouldn't be enough to, you can get the EPA statistic on how much of the outflow from the waste stream is food waste. It's not that much. So it's economy of scale. Everything has a cost associated with it. So you convert those dollars and cents, and if you can get that volume where it justifies the expense of a container and a truck. Polycart's $60, the truck's half a million dollars. So you got to have economy of scale. A drop-off center would be, you could exclude the truck and probably get fair participation, but the residents would have to pay for the expense of getting it there. We could fold it in, but I don't know that it'd be that much volume. That's something we need to study. But yes, you could do that very readily.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking that in the same respect, I wonder if there's a way to incentivize like Walmart to drop off things at the facility.
Yeah. The political part of that, it's not my bailiwick. I would hope so. I would think so. I would think that they would be able to incentivize them to do that. Certainly, if you could keep the cost less than their regular waste, and protrusible vegetative waste is heavy. So if it would reduce their expense and add something to their bottom line, I'm certain they would be willing to do it. Yeah, and that would be the biggest incentive to me. If we can divert, if 10% of their waste stream going out the door is protrusible vegetative waste, they're gonna say, hey, we can save 10% on this, or maybe 5% if we could keep our cost of collection under that, or if they brought it to us. You know, I'm sure that there would be a good incentive there. I just don't know how much they generate on a daily basis. That's the unknown. Or the variable probably.
And then like the resident storage could be a problem too, because could begin to stink after a
Yes.
while or liquefies. And
I think that's the biggest issue on that, in that regard, is how long does it stay in that one spot? And does it create a disease vector? And that's where not only the DEQ is going to be concerned, I'm assuming, and, but maybe the health department too. You know, the health department doesn't like your lid to not be on there now. And they'll talk to you about that. So even with just dry cardboard, they want a lid on that thing. So that's something those are the objections, and they're little ones, you know, they're all very small objections that can be overcome. And I think if you had the right coordination between municipalities to get a bigger movement than just the city of Norman, we have 125, 130,000 people. If you could triple that, then you might be on to something. But Norman by itself, it's economy of scale. It doesn't work economically. And we're the solid waste division's an enterprise fund. And we have a fiduciary responsibility along with our environmental responsibility. So we've got to find that balance between the two.
might be something that could be voted upon
Yeah.
by like the
Absolutely.
city residents.
Absolutely.
To have like an increase in taxes just to
Yeah, it's
to
not.
pay for that or something like that.
It'd be the increase at their front door, at their rate, because we're not taxpayer funded. So we'd have to say,
Oh,
your rate of, you know, $17 a month is gonna go up to $20 a month to collect commercial protrusible waste. Or you wouldn't do it to the resident, you'd do it to the commercial business and say it's this much. So we're right back where we started.
yeah.
It costs this much for us to collect that. Does it reduce significantly your waste stream expense?
Right.
So you kind of came full circle there.
Right.
Yeah, but it can be done, and I think it will be eventually. I think as the cost of landfills and those kind of things go up, it will reduce it. And Michelle, I didn't mean to bogart the meeting here. I honestly didn't, but the biggest question out there is food waste. That's where everybody is. And even if we were to get a permit for food waste, we can only, as far as I understand, the way it was when I got the permit a couple of years ago was that we could only take industrial flow. We couldn't take residential because there's not a good enough methodology there for the separation. So,
She's got a question down there for you, Brett.
yes.
Yeah, I'm Mary. I work for the health department and work with OCASA. And I feel like you guys just hit on three of the most important pieces kind of this issue, which is there are single agencies, organizations that are shouldering so much of the burden of the infrastructure that it's really hard to, sustain, but also to, with the cost. And it can't be, it has to be, multi-sector, multi-agencies kind of holding together different pieces of the infrastructure so that it is more accessible. And then I think we also hit on, which is almost as important as the infrastructure, is the education on the producers of the waste, whether that's people in their residential areas or commercial businesses, being educated at what even is the why behind this system, but then helping people realize when we got Scissortail Park to transition to doing all of their landscaping waste to going to fertile ground instead of going to landfill. It was the bottom line, exactly what you're saying, saving money on the roll-offs, but it was also recognizing the value of the branding of being progressive. And like people, I don't think businesses really recognize how useful that is as a branding kind of ideological kind of part of what we're doing. And a lot of people now that, we have we want to support, our money's our vote, right? We want to support businesses that we think are doing the right thing. So businesses are really hopping onto this, earned media and this like value-based kind of, what are the loyalties of this company? And I think there's a lot of value there to, in that adding that extra incentive, right? To kind of, okay, there is a cost, but also here's the return on the investment is maybe more people opting in for this type of service. And I feel like there is a lot of potential with this cross-sector kind of collaboration, because then, I mean, obviously I don't know the interworkings of how money works for you all. I know it's very, very rigid, but I mean, ideally, right, we would be able to apply for a grant that serves multiple agencies where that doesn't have to be externalized down to the, maybe one business or the, citizens. And I mean, that's happening in other places where.
To your point, when marijuana came around, they practically knocked the Capitol doors down, coming up with policies for
Right.
disposal for marijuana. This is equally as important. And why aren't we knocking the doors down over this?
Mhm.
So I think that's the rub right there.
Mhm.
Marijuana was front page news, so it just got blitzed.
Mhm.
But this is equally as important.
Mhm.
And that's where I get frustrated.
Yeah, no, you're right. Right.
One of the opportunities, sorry, I'm Terry with Fertile Grounds. One of the opportunities, we were recently like a sub-awardee on a USDA grant. That ACOG actually was awarded. And this mix is like, yeah, maybe ACOG could get involved with some kind of jurisdiction approach to coming up with a facility.
I think you have to get population involved. I think you need a broader base than just the city of Norman.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Is the way to attack that.
But I think that's a great point, Terry, because I mean, like we were saying, there's no way it can just be, I mean, Norman's really leading, this movement in a lot of ways because things are kind of falling out in Tulsa, and thankfully, Terry, you're holding down Oklahoma City, but I feel like it's got to be kind of a collective, push, and not just siloed organizations, agencies working toward this, but a whole, statewide push and campaign to get people behind this. And that's really hard to do. Behavior change is very hard to incentivize at the business level, corporate level, if there's not, fiscal incentives, but I almost even more so at the individual level where people are like, wait, this goes to trash? What? Question mark? But it can be done.
A sustainable effort and a hub and spoke mentality, I think, is what I've seen so far, that the concept that I've seen that I think will work best.
Will you expand on that? What does that mean? Hub and spoke?
Well, Norman's big enough that we have a facility where you can bring it to us, but we don't have enough to go out and buy a big fancy truck and hire an employee. So we get, and Newcastle, Blanchard, Noble, Purcell, Lexington, all these Slaughterville, all these communities around us could hub and spoke to.
Right.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of small municipalities around us.
Who look to us actually.
Yeah.
Often for help.
And are interested, you see interest?
I see interest in everything that we do from those other smaller communities. Absolutely.
That's awesome. That shows you right there. I mean, even some of those rural areas, like this is a value system that a lot of people are hopping onto, which to me, I think is a huge opportunity in Oklahoma. Someone who's lived here my whole life, I think, sustainability has been, and gets politicized like everything, and to see it coming through into, a lot of different areas, and we're all on the side of conservation and saving money, is pretty helpful. I think that's a really good sign that other people are interested.
I think what I've learned over the years is that if you can get the hard part, the economics out of the way,
Right.
the rest of it will sell itself. Everybody wants to do the right thing. So the hard part is figuring out the dollars and cents. If you can get thee behind me, there's no barriers after that, because everybody wants to do it.
Right.
It's
It's
just
just how to.
how to pay for it. So
Right.
I think that's the hard part. And I believe if you can hammer those issues out with a collective mentality, then you can, there's no barriers after that. You can, Amanda will be waving flags and jumping up and down.
I'll follow you anywhere.
Terry, did you get out everything you wanted to say about your?
The second part of what I wanted to say was, as part of that grant, we're setting up,
Mary, can you scoot up so they can see you
Oh, sorry.
at home? Thank you.
we're setting up this community compost drop-off network around central Oklahoma. We're setting up 20 sites. And so we'd love to set up some in the area in Norman. We currently operate a couple of sites you may or may not know about, but where people bring their food waste and we come and collect it. But this program is basically funding, it's giving us 2 years of funding to operate like a drop-off program that's free to the users, where they'll come and they'll input, they'll come and they'll see a sign and they'll like scan a QR code and they'll watch a video and learn how to compost and what not to put in. And then at the end of that process, after they take a quiz, then they'll get the code for the lock to open the bin, because we don't want a bunch of trash.
I love that.
Yeah, then we'll come and service that once a week. And so I haven't talked to you all yet about trying to locate one of these drop-off sites, but that could kind of be an intro,
Yeah,
to the city.
Absolutely. Certainly these two guys, Nathan, Chris, Brandon, Diana, they're all key operators in that concept, so it'd be good.
We're all here. Let's figure it out.
I know, I would love to see like a coalition or solid waste some kind of, I mean, I feel like a lot of people in this room, we're all the same people having a lot of these conversations, but I would love to see some, I don't know.
Well, I think that was the idea of OCASA, and OCASA folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Terry didn't mention he's our OCASA president. But the idea of OCASA is to kind of unite, Oklahoma's composting community and like bring us together versus the isolated efforts kind of thing. So, I mean, that's a resource if we.
Yeah, and coordination is one thing. And the other thing is like-minded people are like-minded. So a good percentage of the effort should be towards people that aren't like-minded.
Right.
And that's not easy all the time, but that's what a lot of us should be doing, is talking to those that disagree with us and convincing them. And that's, you can do that at the churches, you can do that at the retirement centers, you can do that and start there and get a consensus opinion about what we should be doing. Terry's ideas and those kind of things, you can carry those with you and get that consensus opinion. And that's how you do it. And you leave your home base and go out like Kima does all over the state
Yeah.
and get a consensus opinion. So.
Yeah, I think composting is really it's a one of the few places in our culture where like all sides come together. It's like when I go to the US Compost Conference, National Conference, you have people on the right, you have people on the left, you got farmers, who are needing material, to grow food. You've got agriculture, you've got waste generators, the corporate sector, and all of these people coming together just because, we all eat, nobody likes to waste, like, and really it kind of like, you don't have to be ideological, it's just, it makes financial sense. Yeah, it makes economic sense. And then, oh yeah, by the way, it helps our environment. Like that's not the only thing there is to think about, but
I never knew a farmer that didn't compost.
yeah, that's what all of our waste has always been composted. Just really the last 100 years, we started burying it in landfills. But
Well, any other questions? We didn't really talk about individual, like composting as an individual. Does everyone compost here or? Everyone, look at this.
Wow.
Compost.
Be the rest.
Well, that's what Terry's concept will do.
Yeah.
Compost.
An alternative, a viable alternative, so.
And a couple questions in the chat. I couldn't tell. They popped up, but.
Well, while we look at those, I really like what you said, Jeremy, in your video about like, I feel like a lot of people feel intimidated to start composting, but once you get in there, it's not, don't be shy about it. I like what you said there.
You know, the immortal words of Kelly Dillow, she said, just put it in a pile. It'll compost.
Yeah.
And that's true, you know. I was talking about optimum temperatures and 3 feet high. She said, Brett, just put it in a pile.
Oh, Kyle.
Throw it in there.
Amazing how that works.
Right? We're gonna leave the chat up so that they can see what it was. Okay.
Coming through there.
You need better communication.
Okay, you need better communication, train, teach people how to compost properly. What city service is about. We all know.
We're out here trying, that's why we're here.
trying.
But yes, I mean, one of the things that I have, I struggle with just personally is trying to convince my friends. And I got my dad to compost. My mom's still out of it, but
Awesome.
I'm trying to tell my friends and they're like, they don't want to talk about trash, but I'm like, hey, come on.
It's not trash.
Yeah, it's not trash. Yeah, that's a really hard balance of trying to encourage people without telling them what they're currently doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Because we know that, shaming or, kind of talking to people with conviction does not make them doesn't make them want to do anything different. And so it's like, how do we really hype on the value or the why this is even important? But man, you're so much better than me because I'm only surrounding myself with friends that will talk about trash. I need to be more of doing that movable metal, like you're saying.
If you'll take one little bag of this is where Jeremy and Dustin are really good at what they do. If you'll take one little bag of this and just kind of screen it a little bit and get the finer stuff down there and just put it in a sample square in your yard,
Oh, yeah.
you'll be amazed. It's better than any Scott's nitrogen-based fertilizers you could ever buy anywhere. I mean, it'll turn black green. It'd be
I'm gonna
beautiful.
add that I did that. I
Yeah.
put compost in my yard because we had sandbirds and they awful sandbird, goat heads and my grandkids, awful. So I did that and this year we don't have any. Not a one.
It's
That's
so-
all I did was compost.
It's so rich and the grass just loves it and it brings it up. And the other thing too, this is on the other side of things, but plant clover,
Mm-hmm.
it fertilizes itself. And I've thrown a lot of clover down lately. And so it's good stuff and it's beautiful. And it bees.
Yeah. Helpful for those early pollinators, early season pollinators.
Yep.
Really. My yard's looking wild right now. I'm doing no mow May.
There you go.
Go.
Me too. With your help.
If we throw enough clover down, we won't need to compost, will we? Yard waste.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, Brett, I had a question. So you mentioned your Norman's total output in waste, but how much is the yard waste facility diverting from the landfill? Do we
We're
know?
taking in 30,000 tons of feedstock, approximately 28 to 30,000 tons of feedstock
Last year it was 210,000 tons.
at the compost facility.
Yeah, that's how much we diverted
Oh, that's what we diverted.
last year.
Wow.
No, we didn't divert 200, our total waste stream is 160,000 tons. Okay, and we put 30,000 tons of that approximately in the compost facility. And of that, we generated probably about 12,000 compost and the rest we used as mulch.
Yes.
So it's 12,000, I think.
Yep.
Does that sound right, guys?
Yeah, no, like me and Chris just talked earlier, most years we're at right around that 30. This year we're 50.
You think you're
Alright.
50 this year?
So,
Okay, feedstock?
and yeah, I mean, when we talked 2 years ago or however long it was about starting to charge contractors and how that was gonna slow stuff. It didn't slow anything down. If anything, we've gotten busy.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Yeah.
we've
Well,
been.
50,000 tons, unfortunately, we don't have enough room to turn all of that into compost.
No.
So we've got an investment, we've got capital expense set aside already to add more compost rows on this extra 5 acres we have permitted site. So, it's, our total diversion is 40,000 tons. That's recycle, compost, everything.
That's
Per
amazing.
year, in a year.
A year.
Awesome.
That's a lot.
So you mentioned your wood chips at the facility. Can people pick those up for free as well?
Just the mulch.
Just the mulch.
Yeah. We used to take the chipper trucks, we'd let them come in and dump and people would come get wood chips, but it got to a point where nobody wanted the wood chips and we just had the rotting pile
They
of
never
wood chips.
just brought a load of wood chips.
Yeah, it always had stuff in it. we
Right.
had to, go through. But it also became a pile of rotten wood chips that was like, okay, there's
Mhm.
not enough want for this, so we just grind that into our mulch, but.
And the secret is the mulch. If you put it in a pile in your backyard, it turns into some really nice compost after a while. So it's very compostable.
Well, I,
Biggest thing I would say, and I keep saying, we need a screener. We gotta get a screener because it could change. I mean, I know you guys screen your stuff and it makes a big difference.
And
What people are willing to pay for a,
Yeah.
compost versus a mulchy compost. is
Even,
night and day.
even your mulch, screened mulch, you know, you can put in a flower bed versus ours, it's got everything mixed in with it still. It's not really something, you can put it in your flower bed, but. You know,
Well,
I'd
leave
rather
it-
have just
Leave it to
wood.
Brett to throw a damper on things, throw a bucket of water on things, but an industrial size screener, which is what they need, a pretty good, healthy screener is almost as much as a big loader. They're over $500,000. So you're gonna be in the $250,000 to $300,000 range for a screener in a facility that is an expense right now. Now, we just started in the last 3 years generating some revenue. And we're offsetting 33% of our cost of operating, when you say, Chris, about 33% of our cost of operating. So when we enhance our facility and get a scale house in there and we can start measuring those loads more accurately, we can find the mean and compare it to our cost of operating and adjust those loads by the ton. And then we can afford a screener. Because if a guy comes in with 20 tons, he's gonna pay more and it'll start balancing that revenue. Again, we're going back to the cost of operating again. We can balance that revenue enough to pay for a big industrial screener. We could start out with a small screener and experiment with it. It's something on a smaller scale, but then we'd end up buying it twice. Because the quality of the product would be such that we'd want all of it to go to that direction, I think. So it would be something that buy it one time and go ahead and get the big one. So get the scale in, find out what your mean is, charge accordingly and buy the screener. And then then it blows up and becomes self-sustaining. You don't have to subsidize the cost of operating anymore. That's where you want to be, where composting pays its own way.
so you do have plans to get the scale. That's already in the works.
That's exactly what this enhancement and expanding the facility and putting the scale house in there and having it attended. That's exactly what the purpose of it was to make our compost facility pay its own way. And that's the goal. And when we do that, we've reached the mountaintop. That's composting that pays its own way, which is what everybody wants to do. So.
Well, Terry mentioned, what people are willing to pay. I think it's really great when cities will give away their, whatever it is, wood chips, mulch, compost for free. I love that giving it away to the citizens and everything. But then there's also the side of the coin where, when we give compost away for free, we're telling people, hey, does not have value. But when we're charging for it, then people can understand, oh, there is value in this product. But I love free, so.
We're not really giving it away free. The citizens pay for it in their monthly collection rate.
Oh.
So it's buried in there. When they come to the gate, there's no charge, but they've already paid for it. So the idea that it's free, it's not really free.
Right.
It has to be paid for by the citizens. So that's why we kind of keep it restricted to the city of Norman. They're the ones that are paying for it. Now, if we have residuals, if we have some left over at the end of the cycle, then we'll let it go out the gate to a non-citizen, but they're paying for it. So we say it's free, it's not really free.
Yeah. Got you. Awesome. I'll learn some stuff today.
Yeah.
Me too. What other questions out there? I mean,
So we saw, I just want to make sure everybody saw that big machine that you guys have out there that everybody was waving on. What in the world is that thing doing?
yeah.
I know what it's doing. but I didn't know. Yeah.
It's a, go ahead, Jeremy, explain
You're
that.
talking about the Turner?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's our way of adding oxygen to our road, you know, they need water, they need oxygen to keep staying hot, continuing to break down. And so that Turner, it's, you know, I don't even remember how wide it is, 18 foot or something. So we're able to build massive roads and still turn them. And as it breaks down, you know, I think, did we turn one that day? Did we? I turned one with Michelle before y'all got.
Oh, she was a lucky one.
Fun.
We almost got stuck.
Probing the temperature to determine when you turn it.
Yeah, we turn by temperature. And a lot of times, I mean, you can go out there and you can dig into it. You can kind of, after doing it a little bit, you can tell it when it needs turned. Right now, I think 3 or 4 rows need turned right now, but yeah, that's just it's kind of just like almost a big rototiller, you know, mixing up the bottom to the top. We had, with our ground, some of the bottom stays wetter because it's just part of so it's always good to try to get that stuff, you know, even if we have to use a loader sometimes and go through and just mix that stuff back to the top so that we don't start sitting in water too long. But yeah, it's just a big rototiller pretty much.
Again, if you just put it in a pile of compost, but this expedites the process and gets you down to what, about 90 or 120 days, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Because we don't use any additives or
No.
influences, it's about 120 days.
Yeah, I mean, it can sometimes, like, depending on what
I think
we
it depends
ground.
on What time of the year,
Yeah.
your winter stuff takes longer than this, so. You
You
don't
know,
have near the.
There's no nitrogen in the stuff that we bring in the winter. It's mostly
Wood.
wood. So depending on what you're putting in the rows, kind of depends on how long it'll eventually take. I mean, I guess you could say 120 is probably like yeah, I mean, it's somewhere, you know, plus or minus 50 days, 40 days, you know, just depending.
Usually the winter stuff, we'll let the compost, and then once spring hits, I'll go through and put 10 buckets of like green, the stuff that's got green in it on top and turn it in, and it'll accelerate it and finish it.
yeah, that's a pretty impressive piece of equipment. The big grinders in there and.
When we first went down there, we actually, funny story, kind of learned the hard way. So those teeth in there have just a slight angle, the blades, and we got new ones. So we put them all on and we went down a row and it just beat it. And so we had 2 little rows and it was like, so we had to come back there and flip every single one of them back. And so it was, yeah, it was a lot.
Wow.
You mix the new stuff with the older stuff, like to maintain micronutrients or something.
No, like I said, like the winter stuff, like we just brought in. Now we're getting green leaves and green grass, even if it's wheat. I'll take some of the grindings and I'll just put it on top of the winter stuff, just to help with the nitrogen, the carbon ratio. Just to get it to speed up a little bit. If not, it could sit there 7 months and barely break down. Because the wood won't absorb the water like the stuff.
There's also, did I interrupt? I'm sorry. There's also, for smaller communities that want to get a citywide compost, there's equipment that much less expensive. Brown Bear has one that'll actually fit on a little skid loader, a little Bobcat. And what you do is you just leave one row out and it'll push everything over to that row and you just skip down your rows. And it's small rows, about 3.5, 4 feet tall. And you just putt along and they're very low And if you just take yard waste, you know, the permit process is really easy. The DEQ is really comfortable with that process and will help you walk all the way through it. And it will, for a smaller community, if they wanted to do that and divert some of their waste stream, they can do it at very inexpensive. Very inexpensively. Brown Bear Corporation's product is proven. It's been around for years. It was used in the farming industry for other purposes and was applicable to what we do. So they kind of moved over into our bailiwick, so to speak, and a really good product.
Eric, what method do you use to turn it? Do you use a pipe, air pipe, or do you use a equipment?
So we just got some funding. We're gonna install the air pipe, the aerated system later this year. Right now, we're just using a windrow just turned with a bucket. Yep. A little bit less aeration than you guys are able to do.
Pipe and row too. That's a, takes a lot of variables. You can control the airflow.
Yeah, you turn it on, you're monitoring the oxygen levels in the pile, the temperature, and you just zap it with oxygen, you know, just turn the button on and solar powered, panels, powering it. Pretty cool. And it saves a lot of space because you don't have to have row space.
Right.
You can build your piles in just a big chunk. And you can just have,
Theoretically, just adding air to the pile.
right,
The
yeah.
cooler heat.
You air it for 30 days and then you turn it and let it cure for 60 days. And it's a 90-day process. Yeah. Like Midwest City's facility, it's based on an aerated system. I mean, they built a real fancy.
Where
Yeah,
are
it's
they actually
pretty
located?
high. They're on 36th, just east of the landfill, East Oak landfill, between Oklahoma City and Spencer.
It's a sludge
Yeah.
compatible system. They use the wastewater treatment sludge.
They're blending yard
And
waste.
it's all computerized. It's pretty healthy expense.
Oh, yeah.
In the millions, but it works. It really puts out nice compost.
Yeah, all right. What else? Mary was being shy earlier. Mary and Lisa planned all of our ICON events this week, so shout out to them.
And Ophelia, who is not present,
Yeah.
is a big planner.
Yeah, we're excited for the week. We got a bunch of proclamations from the cities.
Yep.
What all were the cities?
We got Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Norman, and we got Governor Stitt to recognize it.
Oh.
Great job, Lisa. Thank you all for hosting us. This is great. We are doing a Cultivate Compost 2 sessions tomorrow at the Well. If you guys are available, Mordecai is going to be talking about the science of compost. That's tomorrow at 12 and 5:30 at the Well, which is downtown Norman. So if you guys can come join us, we'll probably be talking about some similar things here, but just getting different people in the room. And then each week, I think the rest of our activities are up in Central Oklahoma City, the stockyards, downtown, but we're doing a screening of Kiss the Ground and then Common Ground. That is going to be, Kiss the Ground is Wednesday up at the Metro Library. Common Ground is Thursday at Rodeo Cinema in the stockyards. Friday, we have a little sustainability social hour. And then Saturday, we're doing a big compost festival at Scissortail Park. So if anybody is interested, I'd be happy to send out information. We'll have lots of resource providers, vendors, and then some lectures on the stage. So yeah, lots of compost education going on. If you're interested, it's all online on our social media. Just about everything that we're doing this week is free, besides the screening of Common Ground, because that is a new documentary that's just come out. But you can get a reduced price if you do want to sign up to be an OCASA member, which we would love if everybody in this room would like to do that, because we're all having these conversations in our different spaces. So it's great to have that cohesion. But thanks, Amanda.
Yes.
Thank you guys for having us. This was a great conversation. Really impressive what you all are doing and awesome to learn more and be a proponent of that.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks to our Zoom attendee
Mhm.
for sticking with us. So yeah, there's some compost in the middle of the room if you guys
Love.
want to scoop some out, take it home. Or there's like 3, I think, smaller fabric pots where if someone just wants to take the whole pot, then go for it. It's 5 gallons.
Nice.
I see some little totes over here.
Lisa, what you got?
The compost bucket over here is for your utensils, your plates, your napkins, and any leftover food. The only thing that cannot go in it are like the little packets of the cheese, stuff like that. That's not compost.
And these we drink stormwater glasses, those cannot go.
I need
It's water. Not going in.
I need that cup. That's great.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Where the camera has.